We started the podcast with roasting our guest.
Yeah, no, that's how all of the guest stars are going to be treated, I think.
Yep.
Have we started?
We have started rolling. We're rolling.
Okay.
So let us introduce.
I didn't know. I thought you guys had like an intro.
This is our intro. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you guys for having me on. Long-time listener, first-time talker. I'm really happy to be the sixth guest. First guest. Okay, no pressure at all. Real happy to be the first guest on here. When you guys texted me, I was like, oh boy, can I talk for 40 minutes straight? And then I said to myself, yeah, I can.
I mean,
We'll probably make you talk for 40 minutes.
this is exactly, I mean, me and Shahan agreed that you are the perfect person to talk for, you know, for instance, 40 minutes on it. Not promising that this will be 40 minutes. I mean, it might, but yeah, you know. Now, how about, you know, we start with actually introducing. So introduce yourself, please, young sir. Yeah, don't feel bad.
Okay. I feel like I'm messing this up already. All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Bryan Lasof. I'm a filmmaker, professional VFX artist, and dear friend of Shahan, and also sometimes Sam.
I think, Sam, that's not a good day for you. I know.
It is what it is.
No, actually, let me introduce. What's our podcast?
Oh, yeah. Guys, welcome back dun, 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 to the Bruh Podcast. Bruh, you know how it is. Hosted by Sam and Shahan, yours truly. And yeah, today with a special guest. So guys, sit tight. It's gonna be a fun night.
So we'll start off by how we first met Bryan. Bryan, do you remember when we first met?
I remember how I first met both of you pretty clearly. Okay, let me paint a picture for you. The year was 1943. No, I was probably last year. I was going through like a real shitty time at school. I was thinking about like dropping out and stuff. And so it was checkouts for like our big semester project. And I got there and I was the only person in my group there. And I had to do the whole checkout by myself. And I was pissed. And so one of the other guys in my group, he was directing the first one. And so he sends me a text to say, hey, did you get all the gear? And I was like, yes, I fit all the gear into my 2020 Dodge Challenger, which still has a dent in the floorboard. Yeah, I'm mad about this. And so he says, cool, I'll be over to pick it up in like 10 minutes. And so I wait 30 minutes and he comes over and he's bought this U-Haul. And so he's like, just, you know, monotone self. And there behind him in his shadow is Shahan, a man who my first thought is, oh my God, he looks like he's wearing a bow tie, but he's just wearing a polo.
Yeah, I remember. I have to bring that back. You know what, the signature style? Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, this is how you wear it.
Yeah. That is his signature style.
I remember that U-Haul that he rented out was used for pick and drop. He ended up paying like $700 just for the U-Haul. Yep.
$700 because he was driving around so much?
We were going to Chick-fil-A on the U-Haul, so you can imagine.
Oh my God. And like the U-Haul is not that far from his house either. That's the worst part.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah. So first of all, as Bryan came out, I thought it was a girl. With the beautiful curly hair. Then I saw the vision. No, I said no. This looks like a good, I would say, a muscular guy, right?
There you go. I prefer girthy.
And I got scared. I said I should probably sit it inside the van and let Muhammad get the stuff out.
Fun fact, there is, and hopefully this even reaches the kid at some point, there's this guy at the school that we all go to, New York Film Academy, who literally is a clone of this guy. It's crazy. We can talk about this for a moment. So when we went to, I doubt he'd even care if I name dropped him. In fact, I think I know his name, but just for safety purposes, let's just not name drop him. But like the kid, he's walking, and me and Shahan, we're in a hallway with a bunch of other people. We're at this event, this event that's orchestrated by our school, and all of a sudden we see Bryan come in. The only problem is that it wasn't Bryan, but we're like, no, but that is Bryan. The hair, the white face,
everything.
Like quite white, even the kind of the structure of the face, and racism. Shut up. And like the thing is even like the stature. I mean, Bryan, to be fair, is a bit more muscular, you know, no. But the thing is I 100% thought it was this guy. So me and him, we were both about to go up to this guy and like mess with him or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I have to do a U-turn because it's not Bryan. I have never in my life seen someone who looks so similar to someone else. Never in my life.
And you remember, as soon as we figured out he's not Bryan, and he came that person crossed like, I shouted, "Oh, Bryan!" And then I used that was the best moment. So yeah. So Bryan, we know for the fact we have worked together a lot. Bryan does VFX supervision. He is a super VFX artist. He does a lot of creative stuff, things which are not shot. He would probably bring that on screen. So how did you started your journey as a VFX artist?
Oh boy, what a fun question. Well, actually, I mean, as long as I've been doing film, I've always wanted to like figure out how they did the tricks and stuff in the movies. Because like, you know, when they shoot a guy and blood comes out, you're like, how the hell did they do that? Yep. And so as soon as like the first thing I ever shot on my iPad, it was a VFX thing of someone having their throat slit. And we took like because we were like 5 or something. No, we were 8. And so we didn't have like access to knives. So we had it was a dog brush, and we put ketchup on the dog brush, and then we hit it at the camera angle. So as we brought the dog brush across a 5-year-old's or 8-year-old's throat, we'd see the ketchup running down.
That's crazy.
Sorry, 8-year-old? Like as in the actor was an 8 year. You were 8 years old. Yeah, you were all 8.
Yeah, no, we were both 8. I was not pulling aside an 8-year-old child and then pretend murdering him. Oh boy.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's just interesting. I did that at 8. Like,
how far into the podcast are we? Did I get canceled at 8 minutes?
No,
not even 8 minutes. You got. I think you were canceled before this.
Before we start,
we're trying to bring you back. You know what it is. That's what it is.
Someone is shouting.
I wonder if you heard that on the stream. Someone just screamed. Let's see if they were like literally like getting chased, but it's okay.
Yeah. Where are you from? We don't even know that. I mean, I know that. Sam's probably know that. For the viewers who are based in LA, where are you from?
This is always really fun to try and explain because no one's heard of it. I am from Bainbridge Island, Washington. And if you don't know exactly where that is, there's good reason for it. It is a tiny island next to Seattle. It is 4 miles wide and 8 miles long. It has, I think, 20,000 people living on it now, which is huge for how small it is. And it is a beautiful paradise full of big, pointy pine trees, steep cliffs, the coldest water you've ever seen in your entire life. Great.
Interesting. And so you lived there your whole life before coming out to LA?
Yeah, I lived there up until 2020, where then I joined up with GFI and fought fire. So I was stationed over in Merlin, Oregon, which is the polar opposite of Bainbridge Island, because it is a very big. Well, if a city were a truck stop, it would be Merlin, Oregon. The actual city itself is one road long, with no speed limit, no police department. It's regularly just over 100 degrees there. And there's one Dutch Bros.
Cool. More about before you started studying film here, right? You were more towards you were into fire department, right? Yeah. So what was your position, and how did you went inside working in the fire department?
Okay, yeah. So what I did was I did wildland firefighter, and I was a special type of wildland firefighter called Type 2 IA. And so what that stands for is initial attack. And so what me and my crew would do for the year I did this is we would respond to wildland fires that had just started. Now, we didn't always do that, and we got put onto some bigger fires too during the season. But it's usually like small stuff where we were the only resource there.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you when you were doing that? Because unless I'm mistaken, like you're not a very old man. Are you like a really old man with like some really just nice skincare, or like what's going on there?
Sam, I'm 35.
Guys, stop lying. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah, no, I'm 20.
Actually?
Wait, you're 20?
Yeah, I'm 20.
You're 20? I didn't even know he was 20. Wait. No, bring that to me. 20 as in born in 2002? 1? Okay, at least not 2. But still 1? That's crazy.
Probably his hairs are 21-year-old. Your hair.
My hair. hair's 21 years old?
Because it's so long.
Yeah, because
I think my hair at this length is maybe 15 years old. Someone called me a girl when I was 5, and when you're 5, that's the worst thing anyone can call you. Yeah, and so I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I don't want this hair anymore. And she said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. And so then I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I want to cut my hair. And he said, fucking finally. So he takes me to the barber and they cut it off. And I come out of the barber's room and I say, Daddy. This was before Daddy had different meanings. And he doesn't recognize me. No one for the next year recognized me. Because the hair is the first thing everybody sees.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you cut your hair right now, probably if you go to school tomorrow or you just go to your work, no one would probably.
Well, I'm just trying to see, like, what would this man look like with a buzz cut, like a buzz cut? Like, that would be a different man. Like, that would not be Bryan Lasof. That would be like, I don't know, like,
I would
Bryan or something. I don't know.
I'd look absolutely terrifying. So when I was little, I had this thing called lateral craniostenostosis. It's like this super rare skull thing, right, where the plates don't grow right and they don't fuse. And so I had like a cone head. And so I was one of the first, I want to say 100 people to get this surgery, where they took apart my skull and then put it back together to fix the plates from growing. So I have this scar from each side of my ear that is I've never seen it, but it's supposedly under my head. Well, no, I've never shaved my head.
Right.
Fully, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have talked enough about hair.
You don't want to talk about my conditioner?
No.
What conditioner do you use?
Frizzy's conditioner. When you've got unruly hair and it needs taming, use Frizzy's.
We're not officially sponsored by this company, so that was him on his own business doing what he wanted to do. But by all means,
I am sponsored by Frizzy's.
okay. So we have someone on our show who's sponsored by Frizzy's, guys.
So the topic for today, which we haven't touched until now, is religious psychology or philosophy.
Religion, philosophy. Yeah, it was interesting because I think as we've now come into the podcast with a bit more umph and a bit more organization, there's some things that we want to talk about, have some fun discussing,
Have deeper meaning to everything.
You know what I mean? And so today, we want to discuss religion and philosophy, and we have something very interesting here because we have 3 different types of people. We have someone who's white, someone who's Asian, and someone who's black. And, okay, that was a joke. We have someone who's an atheist, someone who's a Muslim, and someone who's a Christian. That joke did not land. Sorry, guys.
Well, actually, there's kind of something to that as far as intersectionality, just like as far as lived experiences, because both of you are immigrants.
Yep.
Shahan, you're immigrating from a place that a lot of folk have some issues with. Mm-hmm. And, I am the whitest person you'll ever meet. My grandparents are both from Ireland. Yeah. I've never faced any racial profiling in my entire life.
You guys can't face racial profiling. How?
No, we can't, and it's tough, man. Being able to walk down the street without anybody giving you a double look. It's really hard.
Actually, you know what? So when I came here, I thought that I would probably have that experience, but until now I've never had. But everything which I got as a response was pretty positive from everyone. Whenever I would talk that I'm from Pakistan, they were like, "Wow, Pakistan! How's the food there? How?" Because now so the new government has been really good with promoting the northern part of Pakistan, which is really beautiful. Like, it's probably the most beautiful part of the world, I would say.
Maybe a bit biased, but.
I mean, that's what the.
Are you comparing it to Toronto, Sam?
Hey, this guy's trying to. I'm comparing it to Banff. You Canadians know.
Sam, look, let's talk facts. Pakistan has the biggest, tallest mountain range in the world. And when you have huge mountains, you have great valleys. Then you have.
Well, we'll have to fact check that, but okay. I mean, I'll take your word.
Sure.
I'll take your word for it.
Out of the 13 tallest peaks, we have the 5 tallest peaks in the world. So, I mean, not bragging, just telling. Now since a lot of people now think that there's some beauty exists in that part of the region, I think I'm getting a really good response from pretty much everyone. And I think, Sam, how's your response being in LA? Because I think no one can literally, because LA is literally just, no one belongs from LA. Every other person has traveled to LA. So, I mean,
Yeah, and even though we're doing a bit of a segue, but both LA and I can even talk about Canada a little bit as well. But I mean, since I've been here in LA, yeah, obviously since it's very diverse, and thus far I haven't really. I wouldn't say I've faced any necessarily like I would call them hardships or whatnot, or any like profiling or whatnot. There's been small instances with whether that's like people that I know or something like that, where maybe I wasn't too happy about a comment or something, but nothing that I would be worried about more than just that day or whatever. And even my experience living in Canada, which and I would say almost every place in Canada is definitely a lot less diverse than a place like LA. Even though Canada is very diverse, it is very diverse. It has one of the highest immigration rates in the world, but even though it's a bit less diverse, I would still say that throughout my life living in Canada, honestly, it's for the most part it's been nothing but good experiences from people of various different backgrounds, including the majority backgrounds over there as well.
So how do you want to state and start the topic that we probably have started to discuss?
Well, let's start with, I guess, maybe like starting maybe with our own beliefs. Like I think that.
Can I quickly check the recording? If it's recording. Yeah.
Just to make sure. We just got to make sure. This is a pause. This is an intermission. But Bryan, during this intermission, do you want to talk about your sponsor again?
I do. I'd like to talk about it. Look, I've tried everything. I tried, coconut oil, moose jizz, and it never worked.
Okay, that's the end of that.
Sam, that's not even like half a dollar.
We're not talking about moose.
Moose jizz?
No.
Well, here's a fun fact. It's not related to moose jizz. It's tangentially related. Like baby foreskins are actually used commonly in makeup, which I think is a very interesting thing.
Okay, so we are back, guys, after this short break. And yeah, since we're going to be having an interesting discussion regarding religion, politics, or not politics, philosophy, let's first maybe start by stating kind of maybe our beliefs. And we can be very vague, just to start. But I personally, I'm a Christian, believer in God. So that's, I guess, would be the vague foundation.
Yeah. I'm a born Muslim.
I'm an atheist. Yeah, my mom is Irish Catholic and my father is Jewish-ish, and I am neither. Yeah, Jewish-ish. It gets weird.
What does that mean exactly? What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means that he feels entitled to being really, really angry at German people, just the entirety of Germany, because he was born Jewish. I don't know. It gets weird. He's a weird man.
I have a question. Since you have a cross-religious background inside your family, usually people have extended families which are different, right? Some like the mother's side, but your immediate parents are from different religious belief. How does that work in your house? And for you, as growing up, would you be following, like, going to Sunday services on Sundays, obviously, and then doing your Jewish practices with your father? How did that work? Or you were just focused on one thing?
Yeah. So religion played basically no part in my growing up. My dad, while being raised Jewish, is militantly anti-organized religion and is maybe agnostic. And then I didn't even know my mom was like a practicing Catholic until I was 15. And I made one joke too many about God. But it is weird for sure, though, because my mom's side of the family are all pretty Catholic, especially my grandma, who I probably can't say this out loud on the podcast, but she might be a vampire. But yeah, she's like super godly. Oh, and my uncle is in a cult.
What is a cult? Do you have any idea about the cult?
Do I have any idea about the cult that Bryan's uncle is in?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so how was your journey from a family of different religious backgrounds coming to be an atheist?
Well, It started off in that phase that I think pretty much all atheists start off in, where it's more just like a fuck you, the man. But as I've grown up and as I've matured and as I've experienced my life, I've taken more of a back seat to it, because I do think that it's the need to have something greater than yourself is really important for a lot of people. And I'll tell you what, when I was fighting fire, there were days when I knew I was going to die and I was talking to something. Now, do I think I was talking to anything? No. But I think it's comforting to kind of try and make a deal with that. And I think that for a lot of people, that's really important. But something that does bother me is the way that religion is historically used to oppress folk and keep them in order, an order that often services folks of greater privilege.
Right. You have something to add on to that?
Wait,
you can look.
that sounded too intellectual.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we have to cut that, censor that part. Okay, so you can look towards us when you're talking. It's not a press conference; it's a podcast.
Don't worry, you can do whatever you want, whatever you feel, Brian. Sometimes I look at the camera too. But yeah, that's interesting. So me personally, I was born into a family. Both my mother and father are Christians, and I would say in terms of their upbringing, because they lived in Nigeria, which is a very religious country, about half Muslim, half Christian. They also grew in a Christian environment. However, they didn't really, or at least I know for at least one of my parents, didn't really take religion all too seriously until they had kind of their own experiences going into young adulthood. And I would say the same for myself. I didn't necessarily take Christianity too seriously. It was just, more of a community, more of something that was a part of my life as a kid growing up, until I had my own experiences and also actually my own kind of just intellectual delves into it. It's very interesting because I think that religion is a very hot topic. I mean, it usually is a hot topic. Doesn't matter, if it's now or before or later on. But, even with, things like you brought up of how it's been used to oppress people, I think it's very interesting because I always like, whether I'm looking at, again, my own beliefs or beliefs of other people that have been used in a way that's not good. I always try to kind of try and separate the ideology from the people, because the thing is that, hold for a second. Are we holding for the plate? Sure. Dude, it's how it is, bro. I remember exactly what I was on. Yeah. Is it still on or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah. All good. But yeah, as I was saying, I like to separate ideology from people, because ideology is, I think, our own, as people, obviously, trying to make sense, both in the religious sphere, in the scientific sphere, in all spheres, trying to make sense of the world that we live in. What is reality? What is actually true? And then the people who may use some of those realities or use their perceived truths to cause harm, because anyone can take anything from anywhere and twist it. But the real root that I'm interested in is what is true. And as I've gone through my life, I've seen, again, everyone has their own life experience, but I've seen that Christianity fits the bill as I've kind of just walked through life and seen many things. But again, it's interesting to discuss through it.
Yeah, same with me. My family, both of my parents are Muslim, and so actually the word, the country where I am from, it was made due to a disbelief, like a difference in religion, which was between the Muslims and the Hindus in 1947. So obviously, it was that the difference in belief was solved through the difference of geography, and eventually Pakistan was made in 1947 just because there was two different existing religious people who thought that they couldn't live together. But one thing which probably I have been taught was, I think, which helped me a lot, was tolerance. towards other religious parties, which, as looking over, like when you're coming from a Muslim dominance country, probably people don't know that much about other religion, because it's like everyone, it's the same, right? Everyone, if we all are same, we don't know about any other person. So, but yeah, I think from the upbringing I got from my family was that it was highly tolerant towards everyone else, which I think really helped me, because I got to meet so many people from different backgrounds, and it was so much learning from them. My best friends are not even from the same religious background. So how do you think that, I would ask you probably, how do you think that understanding, not even religion, understanding life and religion together helps you in tolerating other backgrounds? It can be racial background, it can be ethnic backgrounds, or it can be even just people belonging from different nationalities.
Oh boy, well, that is a big old question. Fun that you give that to the atheist first, someone who notably does not mesh life and religion together at all. Well, I think that the way I view religion, spirituality, and its connection with life it's certainly different, because I'd be viewing it externally, because I'm watching how other people interact with it, and it's how I'm perceiving it. And I think a lot of the times my view of that gets very clouded, because you don't hear about just like the good practicing Christian who goes to church. You hear about the nutter butters, you hear about the homophobes, you hear about the bigots, you hear about the racists. And those parts of Christianity certainly do exist and are certainly supported in the root texts. But that's not the majority of people's experience to it. And for a lot of people, it's a very comforting thing that helps them deal with a lot of the problems. Like, just living on your own, it's hard. It's really hard out here. And so definitely having something to keep you going, something to explain why this is happening, it would be great. Because for me, it's just an existential crisis. Whenever I think about dying, it's terrifying, because I don't think there is anything. And trying to process your own existence ending it's utterly terrifying, because you can't even think about it.
Well, that's the interesting thing about our reality. No one knows what it's like to die, and no one also knows what it's like to be born, which goes into a philosophical reasoning for Christianity and eternity, which is very interesting. But I think that even to kind of go into your question and then to ask one after, I think it's very important to be very open-minded in terms of talking to people, no matter what their background is, no matter what they believe, and having very civil discussions like we are now, and being able to just be friends, even if and show love to people, even if the beliefs don't necessarily mesh. For instance, again, I would disagree, for instance, with maybe saying that there are places in the Bible that support the whether it's bigoted ideas or whatnot. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that we can't be friends, normal, do stuff, or also even have intellectual discussions about it and talk about why we disagree about that. And I'm also interested because I think that in topics of religion and philosophy, oftentimes there's a big divide between the people who deem themselves religious and then the people who deem themselves as atheists or just non-religious as a more blanket term. And I'm interested in exactly, I guess, what atheism means to you, because I remember you had said that you grew up under someone who was almost militant in their atheism as well, and I'm interested kind of in just what I guess your view of reality is, and how that kind of came to atheism for you.
That's actually a really good question, Sam. Oh, I hate words. Okay, so
You didn't even remember the question.
It was such a difficult question.
Right? Yeah, it was about how I personally view the world. Well, yeah, it does, as Sam was saying, it varies very widely from person to person, because there is no guiding text of atheism. There is no church of atheism. I think the best way to describe the way I see it, I think atheism is kind of like an anarchy. There's no hierarchy of order. Everything's just kind of like doing its own thing and coming together. So like, you know, if you were to say intelligent design, I'd think of it as like a rug. Whereas atheism is like someone put a bunch of like yarn in a blender and then threw it at a rug, or, you know, just like at a floor. And so it's just like this this mishmash of unconnected gibberish that comes together to form this this beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think religion overall, the spirituality of any individual is probably bigger than, or I would say bigger than the life itself, in a sense, because it's for like, just like for Bryan it's different, for you it's different, for me it would be different, but it's just because it's different, that's why it's different, but we still connect to each other, right? So maybe either it is so big than life, or either it is so I would say hidden in ourselves. And because as a human being, humanity brings people together, I would say. And if you're a good human being, I think so. Even that's my strong belief. If I like people who are good human beings. If someone is super religious and he is a bad person at any instant, but he is a super good religious person, he follows everything, I think probably that he is the worst person in the world. If he's not good with people, because I think the connection of human beings individually and connecting to each other as a network is what makes us humans. It's not any belief that makes us, because belief everyone can have. Even you can have a belief that there's no camera in front of you and still be good at whatever you're doing. So yeah, that's my takeaway from the conversation. Sam, you have anything to add on to that? So we might be able to wrap up soon.
Yeah, exactly soon. But I think that it's interesting when I guess when I think of this in more the kind of bigger conversation, and I already kind of said it, but I'm just interested in what is true, and I think we all are. Sometimes we don't necessarily say it, but at the end of the day, whether it comes to the simple things in life or the most difficult things in life, we all want to live true to ourselves. We want to live true to our families. We want to live true to reality. We don't want to live in a way that we shouldn't. And even kind of with what you two were saying, with what you were saying of being a good person, sure, I'm very interested in being a good person, but I'm even more interested in what does being a good person mean? Because a lot of people have a lot of different definitions of being a good person. Yeah. And if one person says being a good person is doing something that all three of us would say, whoa, I don't think that's being a good person, then what happens then? Because we have to set, and not even set, we have to understand what the base is for that goodness, for that truth. It's interesting that you also brought up in intelligent design, because obviously intelligent design is something as a Christian that I'm interested in, and that I've had my thoughts about and whatnot. And I think that philosophically, which we can also go into as well, intelligent design is a very interesting thing. We see intelligent design in everything that we look at, that's built by humans, obviously. And so when I bring it back to the world itself, to nature itself, I can't see both the scientific and the philosophical consistency in nature not being intelligently designed. Even the idea of putting something in a blend, like putting yarn in a blender and throwing it at a rug, the blender had to be intelligently designed. Even if the thing looks like a mess that came out of it, something had to be intelligently designed. It always comes back to a source. Everything comes back to a source. The bench that we're sitting on, someone could come and say, oh, that doesn't look intelligently designed, just looks like a random thing, whatever. Maybe someone who's never seen a bench. But we can look at it and say, okay. But yeah, we can look at it and say, well, no, we know that someone made this bench. We don't have to guess, and we don't even have to say oh, maybe someone made, there's an 80% chance someone made this bench. We know someone made it. So when I look at that also, even philosophically for me, and scientifically, kind of points to a creator. And that's really just the start in terms of, I guess, Christianity for me. But that's always interested me. Yeah.
Any ending notes on the conversation, Bryan?
Well, when I came out here today, as I was driving in the car, I thought to myself, okay, you're friends with both these dudes. What are two things you shouldn't talk about in the podcast today? And I went with religion and politics. I managed to avoid politics, religion, not so much, but Sam doesn't want to crucify me. So I feel like we're going good.
With all of this stuff, I think actually we were trying to get more guests into our podcast, and since Bryan and me are working together too, and we are working with Sam too. But Bryan, actually, you know what? Let me ask you. Let's do a quick closer. You worked me on my project as a VFX supervisor. How was your experience, and how did you think that, because we have a specific scene in which we wanted really, really heavy VFX. Sam was a script supervisor on that too. How did you think that it came out, and what were your imagination when you read the script?
Yeah, well, I think most of the things went pretty smoothly for the VFX shot. I think that mixing practical lighting in with the effects lighting could have gone better. We were very limited in time and scope, mostly because we had to go around and try and get the right bulbs, which we didn't end up using because they broke on the set. But, you get in there and you work the best you can. And I think it's going to come out really well.
Cool.
And also one last question for Bryan from me, because I'm also very, even though it's not maybe a personal interest in terms of what I would do, but I'm very interested in how VFX comes together and the idea behind it. And now we're just pinning this guy as just the VFX guy. This guy can do so many things. He can grip. He can DP. He can. I've seen you DP. He can do it now. He can do a lot. But VFX. But he's a specialist. He's one of the people that a lot of people at our school go to because he just has that real passion and real skill for it. So in terms of my own interest, I guess because you even touched on it. What are some of the, I guess you could say, practical difficulties when it comes to like trying to mesh VFX with the practical lights, practical sets and whatnot? And what would be your advice to people who are just beginning to get into VFX?
Oh, what a good question. Well, the hardest thing is replacing something with a clean plate when the lighting changes. As we're doing on Shahan's, the practical lights happen to hit the place that we are using. We have our tracking marks. And so being able to just take from the clean plate to replace the tracking marks is not a viable option. So instead I have to go in with a clone stamp as the light changes and then change the exposure of the clean plate that way, which, oh boy, is that time consuming. Oh boy. And then we left them up for all the shots, even the shots that didn't need them.
That was your choice. That's why we had you on set.
Oh yeah, no. And the worst part is it's my job to do that. It's my job to make that decision. We didn't even need tracking marks. I didn't realize the camera wasn't moving when the effects were going.
And one more thing, I think, why did we even have the makeup on his hand? Because we didn't need it. Now it's more work for me because I have to choose takes in which we don't see his hand. So
last thing, the advice
for our beginner VFX artists.
Oh yeah, well, it's going to look terrible for the first 10 years you do it. It's going to look terrible. It's really hard to do, and you just got to stick with it or hire me to do it.
And Bryan is here to promote his film, which is Seolin.
Yeah, you got it.
How do you pronounce it?
Seolin.
And what is the hidden meaning behind this word?
Well, first off, the full name of the film is Seolin _ don't name your title in an Irish word that no one can pronounce. And then the meaning behind it is to sail, and it plays in thematically with the story, about a spaceship.
Cool. So it's a VFX heavy film. So we'll probably end our podcast right now. We had a great time. With sitting with Bryan we have been sitting every day for 4 hours, but still we had a great time. Sam is with me pretty much every day. We are the Bras.
This is Bruh Podcast. Thank you, honestly, Bryan. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure. I enjoyed all of it except for the bits where you started shouting out racial slurs. But
you know what? I have to beep out so much stuff. He's just making so much. I think this would be the most difficult podcast to edit.
I asked you guys
It's okay.
before if I can just make shit up and say it about Sam, and you guys.
It's okay. We don't have to bleep everything out. People will know. Our viewers are some of the smartest viewers in the world. They will know when they hear stupidity.